Hey everybody, welcome to the first instalment of our brand new 360-degree ride-along series, where we put you in the passenger seat during the road trips that we go on as we drive some of the greatest roads that Britain has to offer. Today, we're starting off in Monikie Country Park in this BMW X5, and we're going to head down to the Michelin Scotland Innovation Parc, where I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history of the Michelin factory and this wonderful car that we're in today. So, without further ado, we will get started and let's get this road on the show. So this particular BMW X5 is an E70 model, and it's my BMW X5. And I would like to make a case today for why I think this particular car is one of the best bang for buck cars and value for your money cars that you can get today. The reason for that is that these cars can now be picked up in good condition for under £10,000. You can also get a slightly higher mileage facelift or pre-facelift edition, for less than £5,000 these days, which, when you consider that this car in particular retail for £62,000, is a ludicrous amount of depreciation, which has impacted me somewhat, and I will get into that when I start talking about the cons of this car. But it is fantastic for you guys because it means that you can get in a car that once nearly cost £70,000 for less than the price of a family hatchback. Now, this is the 40D, so that means it sits somewhere in the middle of the range. It is a twin turbo diesel engine. It has 303 brake horsepower and about 440 pounds-foot of torque, which on paper propels this thing from 0 to 60 in about 6.5 seconds. I do think that's potentially a bit negotiable, but it certainly feels faster than it is given the car's size and 2-ton curb weight. Now, what I'd like to talk about first is the performance of this car. As I mentioned earlier on, it is a 3-litre N57 engine with 2 turbochargers, which ultimately makes this car feel incredibly responsive. Despite its 2-ton curb weight, the power band is incredibly low in the rev range, which means that when you put the foot down, that single turbo towards the bottom end of the rev band is almost instantaneous. That first turbo kicks in and it propels this car much quicker than you would expect it to, given the sheer size of the vehicle. I do doubt the 6.5 second time frame, but if you are a person who do a lot of back road, B-road driving or motorway driving, this thing has no issue getting up to relevant speeds and then cruising at those speeds for hundreds of miles. Not only that, but you can do it in incredibly luxurious comfort. This is an incredibly comfortable car. With this being the M Sport package, it has slightly bigger alloys, some styling additions, and slightly stiffer suspension. The ride is a little bit crashier than it would be normally, but that isn't so bad, because when you mix in the performance element of this car, it allows it to feel sporty despite its size. And I, for one, really enjoy how this car feels, especially on the motorway when you get it up to speed and you're stick it in cruise control and you're cruising at 70 miles an hour. It feels like you're driving about in your own little bungalow. It's comfortable. The only thing that's missing is its own little sort of wooden stove or kettle so you can get yourself a cup of tea or coffee. With the comfort side of things also comes practicality. This car is huge, it's massive. We've done, as a family, numerous 100-mile trips across the country, where we've had pram in the front, suitcases, we've had a wife and the 2 kids in the back, car seats, we've had a dog crate, further suitcases and our big German Shepherd, all in the back, and this car has just swallowed it up, no problem at all. It has just been fantastic for hauling the family around wherever it is that we've needed to go, and that has just been absolutely fantastic for us as a family. For me, I need cars to do 2 things. I need them to be able to carry a dog / chest of drawers and go 0 to 60 in under 7 seconds. If they do that, anything above that for me is a bonus. So this ticks all the boxes for those simple requirements of mine. I'm a simple man, what can I say? I have simple needs and simple pleasures that I get from my cars. With all of that in mind, I can't praise the car without talking about the negatives of owning a luxurious BMW SUV. And with that in mind, and the cost of these originally, maintenance. The maintenance costs of these are considerably high when you factor in labour costs for certain items, as well as the cost of parts for certain items. Owning one of these can become quite costly, which is why I suspect a lot of them are now down to £4,500–5,000. However, I don't think that's the number one reason. I think that comes down to ULEZ, and we'll get onto that shortly when we talk about depreciation. Not only that, there's certain items that you want to be checking out when you are buying one of these cars. When I bought it, I bought this car for £14,000, which was ridiculously high. Had I known that the market was about to drop on its arse, I certainly wouldn't have purchased it. Had I waited a year, I would have been able to get a far better car for a far lower price, which is what brings me here now, making this argument to you guys, fighting the case for why you should go out and buy one now, because they've depreciated as much as they're going to depreciate. There's not much else that they can do. However, things to look out for, typical diesel things, EGR valves and DBF filters can be an issue on them. There can also be things like worn airbags. The airbag on one side on mine was deflated, so I'd come back in and it would be stanced on one side. Batteries can also be a little bit terrible. BMWs tend to have some electrical gremlins going on. This has been thankfully alright for me so far. And finally, timing chain. The timing chain can be a bit of a ball ache of a job because of where it is positioned within the engine compartment. It's right at the back there, so you have to drop the engine to get access to it. And when you factor in labour costs and all that sort of stuff, it can be an incredibly costly job, which is why I do suspect some of these are hitting the market for an incredibly low amount of money. I would avoid those ones potentially, because like anybody who has a champagne lifestyle but a shoestring budget, I would suspect that those high mileage, lower cost cars are going to be potentially full of problems. However, I've not had a single issue with this car since I done that initial maintenance. I put on £1,000 worth of tyres on it. It needed new tyres, so I put on Bridgestone Jewelers run flat tyres at over £1,000 a pop. That's a killer. Having to do that every few years adds up, certainly. I also had to put in a new battery and that airbag that I mentioned previously. But beyond that, the car has been absolutely flawless. It has approached every single journey that we have made as a family, and it is just done so effortlessly. It commands incredibly good road presence, but most importantly, it feels like a car. BMW, with the first generation of X5, what differentiated the X5 from other similar vehicles on the market at the time was its handling characteristics, the chassis, the suspension, and how BMW managed to make that vehicle feel like a car. It drove like a car. It didn't wallow around in the corners and in the roll in the bends like other cars of similar ilk. it felt poised, it felt flat, it felt composed in the corners, which is a far cry really from certainly most other 4x4 or high riding vehicles of the time. Now, we're nearly approaching the Michelin Scotland Innovation Parc. If this guy can get out, there he goes. So a little bit of background about this particular site. For nearly 50 years, this factory produced small tyres and distributed throughout the majority of mainland Europe. It was decided in 2018 that the factory would no longer produce tyres and would reformat itself into something a little bit different. It closed in 2020 since then it became an innovation hub where they focus on sustainability and low carbon energy. So I thought this would be a fantastic place to end our first road trip together. A place where hundreds, if not thousands, of people's road trips have started. I thought it was a very poignant place to wrap up this video. Now, on the next instalment of our 360 degree ride along series, we are going to be taking out something a little bit more special in this BMW X5. It's also from Germany, it's a little bit older, and some would argue that it's potentially one of the most contentious cars ever designed. It's a bit of a Marmite car. Enthusiasts weren't particularly happy with the design choice that the manufacturer decided to go down, but others would argue that this particular model ultimately saved the manufacturer from potential demise. So if you can take a guess as to what that car may be, leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below, and we'll see how close you get. If that's something that you like the sound of, or you've enjoyed our little road trip today, call shotgun by liking and subscribing to the channel, and then join us on the next road trip. Thanks.